So let's get back to the realist thread, which takes us to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Professor John Mearsheimer has said every year since the Russian invasion that Ukraine should capitulate or that it's lost the war. Why have the realists proven so wrong in Ukraine?
Well, first, I mean, you just said it. He's said it every year. It's like, okay, well, but it's still another year and they haven't lost. Like, but at some point you have to accept reality. They're just unwilling to because it completely goes against their narrative. And also, quite frankly, it's lucrative for them, right? They now have money. Their position is invested in staying accurate and true around this very specific thought, which is why Mearsheimer is a whole separate case, I would say, from some of what I think are well-intentioned realists. So I think there are some that are just quite frankly malign, that are very, in fact, pro-Russian. I think Mearsheimer is one of them. And then I think there are some realists who just genuinely believe that we are overstretched and incapable. I reject that. I don't agree with them, but I don't think they're malign. So I do actually think there's two camps of realists that we have to be mindful of, because again, I think there are some that are in fact malign and anti-American versus some who are pro-American, just I very much disagree with their perspective. But listen, I mean, Ukraine as of right now has seized the advantage, both tactically, operationally, and strategically in ways that no one anticipated because they've been so innovative, because they've been so capable. And part of that goes back to how we have always failed to appropriately understand I would say, both our allies, but those that are engaging in warfare. And what I mean by that is our ability to assess willingness to fight has been historically very poor over the past couple of decades. We anticipated Afghans being very willing to fight. We were wrong. We anticipated Ukrainians to be unwilling to fight, and we were very wrong there. And so I think part of the realist argument is just rooted in a misunderstanding of both the region and what it takes to secure victory in that part of the world.
Now, did you serve in Afghanistan?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what years was that?
So I was there in 2010 and 11, is that right? Oh my gosh, I think 2010 and 11, yeah.
And what was your impression when you went? I mean, you'd never been there, you were sent there. What did you think?
I was like, anybody that spent a day on the ground there knew that whatever policy we were professing here in DC was completely divorced from the reality on the ground. And I think that's why you do see so many different camps of veterans emerging around the two global wars on terror. You have, and interestingly enough, it's actually playing out in the administration. You have the Secretary Hegseth camp, which is the reason why we ultimately, and I would argue we lost in Iraq and Afghanistan.
And he is more of the restrainer camp, right?
Hegseth, no.
You don't think so?
No,
well,
no. Vance, Vice President Vance is.
Vance is.
But Secretary Hegseth, no. He's more of the
because he came out of the Koch network.
He did, but we should not forget that he was almost too bombastic interventionist for them. I mean, so there's a reason why I think that there was a kind of misfit there.
I was just thinking because he had Dan Caldwell briefly in the Pentagon.
I think that those friendships more based on veterans work, by the way, less based on foreign policy. Mm-hmm. So Secretary Hegseth and Dan Caldwell became friends specifically, again, around veterans work. It doesn't matter there how you feel about necessarily when it comes to veterans policy, about foreign policy, right? That came later. Interestingly enough, and that came, and Dan Caldwell's evolution into foreign policy, and I know both gentlemen, by the way, evolved a little bit later. But I think Secretary Hegseth more comes from the camp of veterans that felt the reason why we ultimately lost at GWOT is because we didn't go hard enough. Our rules of engagement were restrictive. There was no clear plan for victory. We just kind of wanted to wait one more year. We didn't go, like I said, we didn't go hard enough. That's one camp. The other camp of veterans is more where Vice President Vance is, which was we never should have been there in the first place. And actually, any intervention is inherently dangerous, it creeps, and is bad for America. And so I think that right now, I think the civil war that's going to happen, to go back to your very first question, around MAGA and the right, is going to be around foreign policy.
So Rubio versus Vance.
Yeah, in many ways, yes. Mm-hmm. But I would say Rubio has very much taken up what I would argue is the original OG mantle of foreign policy that President professed. Because even when he was talking about America first and that foreign policy, he was never America alone. It's a very different thing.
It does seem pretty clear in retrospect that people misread Trump, doesn't it? That
absolutely.
His own personality is pretty forceful, if
Yeah.
not bombastic. This is not a shrinking violet on the international stage,
Yeah,
right?
certainly he doesn't think we're in decline. I mean, he may say that we have to become great again, but he never thinks that he would never, ever count America out. That is something that fundamentally that the president would never do. He believes America is the greatest country on earth. He believes that we've been ordained and that we have this great future ahead of us and the best days are yet to come. It's a very different psychological mindset than someone who thinks that we have to constrain ourselves, we're dwindling, we should embrace a multipolar world. Those are completely separate worldviews. And that cuts across national security, foreign policy, but then also how you engage with our adversaries and our allies.
Is Trump actually more patriotic than many of his ideological adversaries, or someone who believes more in America?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that you can, I mean, and this I think is one thing I find very frustrating about the narratives around the president. He loves America. You can disagree with his policies. You can disagree about how he engages. That man is inherently extraordinarily patriotic. He loves our country. He's always loved our country, whether it was building real estate, whether it was talking about, and being friends with like Muhammad Ali, for example, championing, quite frankly, gay rights, championing minority rights by letting them into his club first before anyone else. He's loved our country. And the idea that he doesn't, I think is just, when people say that, it is simply because they don't like what he does and they don't like him rather than accepting who he actually is in reality.